In this video, I'm mixing the paints that I want to use in my first acrylic painting. Things definitely don't go to plan, so there's a lot to learn from my experiences. I'm definitely going to do things differently next time. In this series of videos, I'm documenting my first acrylic painting. I'm trying to paint a picture of these flowers that looks like an oil painting, and I'm trying to emulate the experience of painting in oils in acrylics. I'm mixing the colours first because I want to simplify the painting process. This is my first acrylic painting, so I really want to be able to just focus on putting paint onto the paper. I don't want to have to think about mixing colours as I go along. These are the paints I'm using. I've squeezed out all of them apart from titanium white, which I'm not intending to use in any of the mixes. It's a fairly limited palette, so I should get some good colour harmony. I'm using a glass chopping board as a palette, and under that I've put a sheet of the colours I want to mix. There's a link to the video about creating this sheet of swatches here and in the description. I'm also using slow drying medium because I want to make sure that I've got enough time to complete the painting before the paints start to dry. The paints should already stay open for at least 30 minutes and the slow drying medium should double that up to about an hour. When I start to mix in the paint with the slow drying medium, it begins to lose all consistency and develops a really unpleasant texture. I can't get enough control using the painting knife, so I'm using a bit of plastic loyalty card to help. Oh, this is horrible. I'm already regretting my decision to use the slow drying medium. I should have stopped using the medium, but I persevered and ended up creating nasty pools of each of the colours. I start mixing the darkest yellow of the petals, starting off with burnt sienna, lightening it with a bit of white. I'm not trying to get a perfect match, and I might not even be able to with the limited palette I've got, but I want to get the spirit of the colour. I find it difficult to keep the painting knife clean of the paint. I'm going to end up using two of them and the piece of loyalty card to try and keep the pools in place and keep the knives relatively clean. So I'm going to add a bit of yellow to this, I think. That's not perfect, but it'll do. For the brightest yellow, I start off with neat yellow. I add a lot of white so that I can add a bit of burnt sienna to it to make it orange while still having a nice light colour. In the interest of speed, I'm not going to mix the two intermediate shades. My plan is that I can mix them on the fly while I'm painting by mixing the yellow or the orange together. When I squeeze out more paint, I'm not going to add any more slow drying medium to it. I think I've got quite enough already. The stalks are greens rather than yellow, so I add some blue to the yellow to get the light shade, and I lighten it with some white and then add some raw umber. It's not that I particularly want a darker colour, but adding the raw umber will give it a more natural tone. I add a bit more white and that's done. For the darker stem, I start with yellow and blue again, but introduce raw umber right at the start, both to give it a more natural tint and to darken it. And that's pretty good. That was a pretty easy mix. The leaves are greener than the stems. I start off with yellow, add some blue and some raw umber. I'm really keen to get variety in the leaf colours, so for the leaves I am going to mix one of the intermediate swatches. I think this chopping board is already proving to be too small and I'll soon replace it either with a bigger chopping board or a proper glass palette. For the darkest colour I start off with yellow and a lot of raw umber. This goes fairly green without adding blue. For the darkest shade on the wall I use blue and raw umber. The darker blue is for the shadows. For the lighter shade, I lighten the blue with white. That's all I'm going to pre-mix. I'm content that I can mix the browns that I want for the shelf and for the disc florets from burnt sienna and raw umber. So what have I learned? The thing that really has gone wrong with this process is the gloopy mess I created by adding the slow drying medium. I think my next experiment needs to be to see what I can do without it. And so what I'll do is I'll spritz the paints with water to keep them moist through the painting process. I'm definitely going to buy a bigger palette and probably another palette knife. Please check out the rest of the playlist about this painting. If the last video about the actual painting process isn't there, it will be as soon as I've edited it. Please check back in about a week's time.